The Tar Heels need a big man, and Henri Veesaar is a big man.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Thursday, April 3rd, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making us your first listen or watch to get your Thursday going the right way. I got my coffee in hand. Coach Bill Robinson with us today from his home because it's a great tradition at my alma mater, the place where he works. It's called Wonderful Wednesday. Students all get the day off and party and food, and it's all sorts of fun. Special shout out to all the everydayers here with us, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and of course, all the great Locked On Tar Heels insiders as well. That thing is going like a little bit gangbusters right now because everyone wants to know about the portal rumors, which I drop in there all the time. So if you want to be in on that, check it out. The link is in the show notes. This episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Coming up on the show today, as I said, we've got our good buddy, Coach Bill Robinson. As we record, it's Wednesday, but as this episode is airing, he's on his way to San Antonio and the Final Four, where Coach Rob goes every year, and so that's a lot of fun. Always jealous because I have to record Locked On College Basketball from home, but whatever, fine. We will all live vicariously through you. On the show today, we're going to be talking about two different portal targets. Number one is Henri Veesaar, the big man transfer from Arizona, who, as we record on Wednesday, is literally on a visit today because there's the dead period starts today as you're listening to or watching this. And so that's why it's important to timestamp it, because literally yesterday on Tuesday, Jonathan Powell did a Zoom interview in the morning and he committed that night. So as you listen to or watch this, if Henri Veesaar is already a Tar Heel, awesome. We love that. But that doesn't make our conversation today any less true. And then Carolina also needs a point guard, very much so. So we're going to talk about Maryland transfer Jacoby Gillespie. And as far as I know, Carolina hasn't made, there's not real inroads there. This is future Isaac cutting in with an update on what I just said on the show about Carolina and their contact with Jacoby Gillespie, as well as Gillespie's contact with Tennessee. John Rothstein reported after Coach Rob and I recorded that Jacoby Gillespie did have an in-person visit with Tennessee on Wednesday, and that Gillespie is receiving interest from Carolina, along with Kentucky, Villanova, and Maryland. All of that makes sense. Villanova is where his former head coach, Kevin Willard, is now going to be the head coach, and Maryland obviously wants to try to keep him. So that's updates on there. Why is all this happening so quickly along with Henri Veesaar? Because there's a dead period reminder starting today, Thursday, and they got to get all these visits in before that. All right, right back to current Isaac and Coach Bill Robinson. But would be somebody that would be a great target. All right, I've rambled on enough, Coach. Let's get to Henri Veesaar, 7-footer, 235 pounds, coming out of Arizona. He was there 3 years, but redshirted one of them, so he's got 2 years of eligibility. Let's go ahead and get the spelling and pronunciation out of the way, because if he's a Tar Heel, you're going to want to know how to do it. There's a V, an E, an S, an A, and an R. The vowels are doubled. That's all you need to know. And then you pronounce it Vay, like V-A-Y, Sar, S-A-R. So Henri Veesaar. All right, Coach. This young man is Estonian. I call him the big Estonian when I talk about him on Locked On College Basketball. And he's somebody that had a crazy breakout this year, kind of coming on the heels of Mo Krivas having an injury. And so it has been short, but it has been strong. And my question to you as a coach, as an evaluator, does that strike you as something that is legit, or just, hey, he popped there for a couple weeks and I don't know that I'd want to touch him?
No, I'm hugely excited about him. And as an evaluator, you can see guys start to develop. And that's what he's done. He's made huge strides from his freshman year, his first year playing, redshirt freshman year. But you can see the development, you can see the progress, and kids like that, they develop maybe a little bit later, but when they do it fast. They do it very quickly. Aaron Laverty played for me. He's now playing in France, but he was a Bahama kid, came over, and he was really raw. But when he started to develop and he started to improve, it was almost daily. Like you could see him get better every day. And I think Henry's the same way. I think with the time he's getting, with the emphasis they're going to give him, and then obviously opportunity to work with post guys, it's going to be incremental increases over the next 2 years. I think he's just going to get better and better.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Well, he's had 3 years in school. He does have 2 years of eligibility, and so lots of time to work with Sean May and the staff and develop if he comes to Carolina. Coach, just from the standpoint of, yes, Carolina got Van Allen Lubin last year, but kind of struck out in a lot of other places. It feels like there is a desperate necessity to land a big, and I do mean that both in terms of the team need, but also like the fan base clamoring for it, and like we need a real big. So obviously there are others out there, but coming off of Magoon Guath deciding to stay at San Diego State, and he, it looked like was going to go to Kentucky. Now Kentucky's probably looking for a big guy. So how important is it in your mind for Carolina to really move pretty quick on this thing if Veesaar's the guy they want?
Immediate. It's got to be urgent. And bigs are even harder, obviously, than anything else to get. As the NAIA coach, we know that very true. It's just hard for us to get guys. There's just not as many out there. But it sets the table. It's almost like the tip jar at the restaurant. When there's money already in there, then people are more likely to give more money. So if you get a wing, which we did, you get a post, which we're hoping, it makes it easier to get that point guard, because now all of a sudden he says, "Oh, I want to play with him. I want to play with him." Hey, there's some momentum going here. There's interest here. There's a buzz here. So let's join. Jump on board. So I think it's hugely important. The visit today will be. I think it's a huge. It's going to be a huge step forward or backwards, regardless, whichever way it happens.
Coach, as you look at him, there are 7-footers who are just big, like the kid that enrolled at Florida this year, the French kid. He's like 7'9". He doesn't do anything, right? He's just big and whatever. With Veesaar, as I watch him play, it feels like there are some legit skills to his basketball game. As you said, there's still development. But as you see Veesaar play, as you see some highlights and tape on him, what is it that stands out specifically about his game to you?
Yeah, I don't get to see a whole lot of the 7 o'clock games. So like with West Virginia, I didn't see any of them, them play this year. You didn't get to see Jonathan play. But with Arizona, with Coach Steve Robb, the real Coach Robb out there, I always like to, I always call him that. I like to see, him play. I like to be able to keep up with what's going on out there. So I did get a chance to see him play some. He plays with some rage. He plays with some real intensity that you don't see from a lot of 7-footers. And when he dunks, he wants to make sure he has a little emphasis on it. He's going to hold on a little bit extra. And he gets some. One of the things I like about him is he just doesn't accept the box out. When somebody does hit him, a lot of 7-footers just kind of back away and say, "Oh, I got boxed out." He fights, and he's got that little extra maybe fire in him, and probably something to prove. Go to that level, not being able to start right away. Obviously, stuck behind some other guys. He's got a little bit something to prove too, and he plays like it. So I do like his versatility, being able to step out and face up a little bit too. It just makes him that much more dangerous. But I just see the next 2 years being something that could be very special.
Yeah, and he's not a high level 3-point taker, but he did take 1.3 a game and hit him at 32.7% clip. Coach, is that enough to at least say, like, you can't just leave me alone out here?
Correct. And it's also one of those things that he will continue to develop as the seasons go on. And that'd be a big point of emphasis for me for the summer. Obviously, you want to work on post moves, and being able to make all the decisions out of the post. His assist turnover ratio is positive, which I love from a post player too. The fact that he can, and it looks good coming out of his hands. He looks like an NBA prospect. I'm not saying he's going to be a top pick or a top, lottery guy, but he looks like a guy who can play, stretch the floor. He can run, he can rebound, he makes decent decisions, and I just think he's going to get better and better.
We're going to keep talking about him in the second segment, but I want to wrap this segment by just asking you, if this is the guy, if this is the big that Carolina winds up with, are you pleased? If you're Hubert Davis, like, is it like, yes, we have got the dude we need?
Yeah, no, I think he is, because I think he can be, talk about high volume. He's not a high volume 3-point shooter, but I think he's going to rebound at a high clip. I think he's going to want the ball in his hands. I think they can run stuff. both inside and out. If they want to spread the floor and he can step out, pick and pop, but if they want to throw the ball to him in the post, they can do that too. So I think he's the guy right now. I don't see anybody on the radar any better than he is right now.
That's a great way to put it. I like that, Coach, a lot. Now, I want to talk about, because it sounds like Ven-Allen Lubin is planning to stick around. We haven't gotten firm public confirmation of that yet. And also Caleb Wilson coming in. So I want to know if Veesaar is the guy. How, in your opinion, does he fit with those other front court guys? Does it raise the ceiling for Carolina? So we're going to get to that conversation in just a second. Right after I tell you about 5-Hour Energy. Daylight savings has snuck up on us again, and you're feeling that lost hour of sleep. 5-Hour Energy has got your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through. So whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, maybe you're squeezing in a round of golf after work, or you're just trying to keep up with your busy day, whatever it is, 5-Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. I've been staying up way too late in my NCAA tournament coverage, but thankfully, 5-Hour Energy is just that jolt I need to help keep me going the next day. So whether I'm at a game, whether I'm traveling, whether I'm at home, it doesn't matter. 5-Hour Energy is easy to grab and keeps me feeling refreshed. So head on over to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including things like watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12 or 24 pack and have it delivered right to your door. But maybe you're like, Isaac, I ain't got time to wait for that. I need one right now. No problem. Head on over to your local grocery store or convenience store and grab a 5-Hour Energy shot. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized. Coach, I want to keep talking about Henri Veesaar here and the possibility of him in a Carolina uniform. And I got to say, it gets me excited thinking about that possibility. Excuse me. What I want to look at a little bit of, we'll talk more about his game, but I want to switch now a little bit to some depth chart conversation here. Because as we look at it, Ven-Allen Lubin was the guy that was the starter down the stretch for this team. He, last 11 games of the season, he scored double figures in every one of them. Really started to find himself, had a nice two-man game with Elliot Cadeau. And so my question is, A, if Veesaar comes in or whatever big, how do you go about navigating the locker room of that, of like, hey, Ven, we're so grateful for what you did this year. You stepped in the starting lineup down the stretch. We see now you're going to compete for it. Absolutely. But we see you probably as taking the backup role alongside Henri. But coach, as I look at it, that's a great 1-2 combo at the 5 in two very different ways that opponents would have a lot of trouble dealing with.
No, I think that'd be an awesome problem to have. Similar to what the Seth Trimble conversations we had this time last year, or talking about the depth that they had and who's going to start, who's not going to start. I honestly, I don't, as a coach, my philosophy, I'm not going to tell anybody, guarantee anybody they're going to start. Yeah. And in this portal world at that level, maybe they do. Maybe they say, hey, Henri, if you come, you're going to start. And maybe that's something they have to do. So I don't know what those conversations are, but
I don't see Hubert Davis say, I just feel like he can't bring himself to say that.
Don't, but at the same time, if that happens, and if that is what we need to do to get him, then do it. But I think those three guys, mix and match. Lubin just wants to win, and he's going to play. I don't think he really cares. The thing about Lubin too is he can play the 4. You're not going to play Henri at the 4, but you can play Lubin at the 4 and go big and go back to secondary stuff. And I would love to see, some more traditional Carolina secondary sets and stuff. And when you have two bigs like that, it allows you to do that if you want to. So I think it's a great problem to have. I don't think Lubin's worried about it, and all three of them will play a ton of minutes.
Yeah, I mean, and when you think about, we're coming off of, as it's Wednesday morning, Coach, just watching the McDonald's All-American game on Tuesday evening. That's basically an all-star game where defense is optional, and Caleb Wilson's out there trying to lock down Cam Boozer, right? Like I just think about that front court, and whether it's Wilson at the 4, Veesaar at the 5, whatever that may be, it's like I'm really intrigued by the possibilities of that. You're going to have some size, whether it's Drake Powell staying around. We don't know yet what he's going to do, whether it's him at the 3, whether it's Jonathan Powell at the 3, whatever that looks like. If Ian stays, goodness, there's a lot of potential for a lot of size with this lineup.
No, and long and athletic, and it allows you to get back into pressure and sending guys to the rim and having a rim protector. And That's the type of defense I think Hubert really would like to do. More aggressive, get in your business, and really get after people, knowing that you got somebody behind you to clean up the mess once it gets there. So I love that opportunity to think about the Powells, Lubin, you know, Veesaar all in there together. Boy, that's a really tough defensive line, and a lineup that can score too. It's not like it's just
That's
one
right.
sided.
That's right. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Coach, to your point, so there was this interesting demarcation line in Veesaar season. I said I wanted to get back to some of what he had done in literally this line was the end of January and then the rest of the season. So the first 20 games of Arizona's season through the end of January, he scored in double digits 5 times. 19 was his max points, 7.6 was his averaged 1.05 blocks a game. And then the final 17 games, February through March, he had 11 double-digit games, so more than doubled how many he did that. Scored a high of 22, averaged 11.5 points, so that went up about 4 points a game, and his blocks go up. He's just like what? So my question, we were talking earlier about, is that just a one-off, or is that something you can take as legitimate? What snap? Part of that is him getting just more opportunity as Mo Krivas went down, next man up mentality kind of thing. What feeds into that?
I think it's just the confidence of getting some more time to have to step up. All of a sudden, your role has changed from, just kind of being a second team guy to now you got to be a first team guy and you've got to make contributions. That changes a kid mentally. And that's why I think he's going to get better and better, because when that time came, he did step up. He does have the talent to be able to do that. Everybody wants to be the guy, but when it comes time to actually be the guy, not everybody can do it. He can. And I think it's just going to be able to continue to grow. And I'm super excited. I obviously don't want to get too excited because he's not here yet. But if he comes, I think he could be a huge piece in the next 2 years.
And something I really like, Coach, is from reading his bio on Arizona's page, back home in Estonia, he was the youngest ever Estonian player to see action in a FIBA qualifier, right? Like, so he's done it at some of those higher representing your country type levels. He played at Real Madrid for 3 seasons, which is that's one of the greatest prep things for various sports there is. In the 2021 season, averaged 16.2 points a game, 11.6 boards, 3.8 blocks, and 2.6 assists. I mean, just doing a little bit of everything. And you talk again about a skilled big man. I'm really encouraged by those numbers. And we've just seen it, as you said, slowly progress there at Arizona.
Because he played at Arizona, he's played at a high level. Obviously, conference games, he's played against the very best. I don't think he's going to be intimidated by going to Cameron or over to NC State. He's been through all that. And if you're playing at FIBA at that age, your skin's a little thicker than most kids anyway. So I think it just makes the package even that much better.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that worries people when players enter the transfer portal is they see one of those DNCs, do not contact. That has meant in the past couple of years, I already know where I'm going. Don't contact me. There is still some of that, but also it's taken on a new meaning this year. Several portal kind of insiders have reached out to me to discuss this. And so I'm happy to pass it along. But basically the idea is that now it's more often meaning don't contact me directly. Instead, contact my agents, go through the proper channels. And so when you see that, don't freak out about it. And obviously, even if it was, Carolina's in on this because he's literally on a visit on Wednesday. And so that's good news. And again, hey, best possibility is he goes ahead and commits like Jonathan Powell does. And I got to go back later on Wednesday night and record another thing to update this. And that would be great news as well. Coach, anything else you want to say about the big Estonian before we move on to a young man that played his high school basketball close to you?
Yeah, no, I'm just really excited. Glad he's on campus today. It's one thing to talk about guys, in a hypothetical situation, but when he's on campus and you feel like you actually have a real legit shot. The biggest thing for us recruiting wise is get kids on campus. Once they get at Milligan and they see the campus and they get to meet people, it's usually a pretty good selling point. How much more so at Carolina? If you walk onto that campus and you get to meet those people, I just can't imagine any place I'd rather be. So I think it's a huge day for the Heels.
Man, would love to see Jim Tanner's international capability just immediately start funneling an international player to Carolina. I think that would have great long-term ramifications as well. And so that's something to keep in mind. Also, we haven't mentioned, I guess I should, that Arizona was shocked that he entered the portal, disappointed. And I see that as a good thing of they really wanted him to stick around, and he's not. And so you always hate when they're like, yeah, take him, please. Have this young man. And so that's good for Carolina. All right, Coach. There's a young man, Jacoby Gillespie, a Belmont transfer. Carolina already has one of those on their roster, but this is a guy who actually had a great year already. The only problem about the potential of having him as Carolina's point guard, he might be headed to Knoxville, Tennessee. We'll talk about that coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel, March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories, which you didn't really have many of this year, and even who's going to cut down the nets next Monday night. We're down to the final 4 remaining teams, and there's plenty of exciting action going on. Specifically, the lines for these games: in the first one, Florida, a 2.5-point favorite over Auburn, and then in the nightcap, Duke, the line is expanded from 4.5 now to 5.5 over the Houston Cougars. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when you win with FanDuel, you get paid instantly. No waiting around. That's great news. So go ahead, check it all out at FanDuel.com for your chance at winning $200 in bonus bets. Get in on all the college hoops action all tournament long. We move now from the front court to the back court, where just as much as Carolina needs a big, maybe even more, they need a point guard to take care of the ball with Elliot Cadeau out the door. Coach, one of my favorite monikers in all of college basketball this year was the Crab Five. Michigan, that's a Freudian slip there on Fab Five. Maryland's starting 5 that played the vast majority of their minutes. The head of the snake was Jacoby Gillespie, a Belmont transfer that, don't be triggered. I know Cade Tyson folks didn't have a great year, but Jacoby Gillespie had a year at Maryland this year. I'll just give you his numbers: 14.7 points a game, 4.8 assists to 1.9 turnovers. That's a 2.6 to 1 assist to turnover ratio, 2.8 rebounds, 1.9 steals, shot 40.7% from beyond the arc on 5.9 attempts a game, 86% from the free throw line, and only committed 1.9 fouls a game. I only add that in because I know we're triggered by our point guard having foul issues. Coach Rob, we'll get to more on Gillespie in just a second, but I think where we got to start is the fact that he is from kind of your neck of the woods there, and you got to see this young man in high school, and we fear maybe that those East Tennessee ties and his AAU ties might funnel him straight to Thompson Bowling Arena.
Yeah, it's about 30 minutes from here to Greenville. Greenville's in the area region conference with a lot of the local schools here. So there was a lot of hype when he was in high school. He did some things athletically that point guards just don't do. I mean, they were bouncing alley-oops to him and catching and dunking and doing all those type of things. So people were shocked when he didn't go to Tennessee right away.
Yeah.
And then Belmont over Vanderbilt and some of the other, Power 5 type schools, everybody was like, wait a second, he's better than that. And then people wondered, well, is he really better than that? Maybe he knew better. I don't know. And people were confused by that. And then he went and played great and had a great, time at Belmont. And then when it did come time to transfer to a Power 5, there's a little guard called Zakai Ziegler that kind of blocked any opportunity for him to go to Knoxville. And I think now that Zakai's graduating, he's out of eligibility, it does open up the opportunity. Funny, I just trying to do some little research this morning on his situation and go to his Wikipedia page. They already have him down as a guard 2025 for the Tennessee Volunteers. So
Wikipedia is undefeated. Wikipedia always undefeated. That's hilarious.
I don't want to be too excited about him. Not as excited, obviously, about Henri and some of the other prospects, but I do think he's great. I think he'd be an awesome addition, and he played the type of style that Hubert wants to play. So we can still have some hope, but I don't feel really good about that for the Heels right now.
I'm right with you, Coach. And I think it's comforting for people. Again, those who are triggered by the Cade Tyson failed experiment. I think there's so much hope of that, of hearing like, no. This is a young man who had all sorts, quite a few Power 5 level offers and just kind of chose to go to Belmont. And I think the proof is in the pudding there with what he did at Maryland this year. Coach, I think another fear people might have is they look at the bio and they see 6'1". Because one of the things we've talked about is needing to get more size, more shooting, more all of this. And, it's basically a 1-for-1 trade in terms of height with what Elliot Cadeau was. But coach, when I look at the other numbers, and that gives me less cause for concern and less pause there. But would you just explain or talk about your thoughts on, like, I know we need size and why it's like, so we shouldn't be in on Gillespie because he's still 6'1", and I'd rather have 6'2", 3 or 4, whatever it is, or like, hey, don't be worried about this. We're overthinking it.
No, I think he is. There's nothing you can do about his size, but he is athletic. He can get his elbows above the rim. So could Elliott. I mean, Elliott was very athletic for his size too. But I think Jacoby's probably a little bit stronger. And again, it's hard for me to be negative on the show, and I don't want to be, but so I'll do it in a positive way. Jacoby wants to defend, and he can defend. He can sit down and guard people, and I think that's a big difference with what maybe the point guard we had this past year. But I'm not as worried about the size with him. It's not going to be that big of a factor. The biggest factor last year was having 3 guards that were small, not just a point guard. So our team this year was 6 foot, then went 6'6", 6'5", 6'5", 7 foot. That 6'1" or 6 foot guard doesn't really matter when the other guys are bigger.
And that's what Carolina projects to be roster wise and lineup. Like right now, I'm thinking this in real time. Seth Trimble is the shortest player in the rotation on the roster right now at 6'3". And so, yeah, that's such a good point, coach. If your point guard is 6'1", but you got your 2 through 5 is like 6'4", 6'6", 6'7", or 6'9", and then 7 foot, like you're probably fine. And as you said, like, don't want to say negative things, but I sat and compared Gillespie last year at Maryland and Elliott last year at Carolina. 14.7 points to 9.4 points. Obviously, Elliott averaged more assists, but also 3.1 turnovers to Gillespie's 1.9. So Gillespie's assist to turnover ratio was 2.6 to Elliott's 2.0. Rebounding is essentially the same. Gillespie 1.9 steals to Elliott's 1.0. Gillespie 40.7% from 3, Elliott 33%. And by the way, Gillespie did that on 5.9 attempts per game, while Elliott did it on 2.3. Gillespie 86% from the free throw line, Elliott 67. Gillespie 1.9 fouls a game, Elliott 2.8 fouls a game. Assist percentage, and again, this is where Elliott shines. Elliott leads that 38.2 to Gillespie's 27.4. But then you look at turnover percentage, Gillespie's was way down at 13.3%, while Elliott's was 25.6. Steal percentage, Gillespie's higher. Offensive rating, Gillespie's higher. Defensive rating, Gillespie is better. And so, Coach, I don't say any of that to disparage Elliott, because he was a good player in so many regards, just the inconsistencies. I say it to elevate Gillespie's game so much and say, like, if Coach Davis can squirrel him away from Rick Barnes, then you've got a great point guard potential there.
No, I definitely think he's a step up. Maybe not necessarily in height, but in the opportunity for us to get more talented. I think part of the scoring and assist down a little bit is they needed him to score more.
That's right.
Than did Elliott to score. So it does. The role is just a little bit different, even if it's the same position. The role was a little bit different. So Jacoby's obviously a better shooter. They needed him to score more, and I think that's why the numbers are skewed just a little bit. But I definitely think he's a step up. And I mean, I'd love to have him.
Yeah, good grief. Okay, well, Coach, let's zoom out then, because obviously this is a Gillespie conversation, but this is also a Carolina needs a point guard conversation. De'Don Thomas is off to LSU. That's the UNLV guy. Donovan Dent obviously going to UCLA. Somebody else I'm not thinking of that I had in my notes from yesterday's show gone off the board. And let's say that Jacoby Gillespie winds up in Tennessee, in Knoxville. Coach, at times, obviously Seth can run the point, but I don't think he's your point guard. Ian Jackson can play with the ball in his hands, but he's not a point guard. The incoming freshman duo of Derek Dixon and Isaiah Dennis, they can play with the ball in their hands, but as of right now, they are not what projects to me to be North Carolina's starting point guard. Like, you got to go get somebody from somewhere is my point here. And so, Coach, anybody else out there, or maybe just the type of guy you're looking for Carolina to get?
There's not anybody that I know out there right now, and it's hard to find that perfect point guard. But sure. I think it's worth being a little bit patient and time being aggressive. You don't want to settle, but at the same time, it's you got to find that special guy who really wants the ball in his hands. You're looking for somebody who can play 30, 32 minutes a game, run your team, and they're hard to find. Everybody, when you talk about guards, everybody wants to be a combo guard. Well, I can play both. I don't really want a combo guard. I want somebody who's a pure point guard, and pure point guards are almost as hard to find as post. And it's hard to believe that because there's so many more guards out there. But and I love having a point guard who can score a little bit, and I love scorers who can handle the ball enough to be able to run like Seth is. But to find that pure point guard is really difficult.
Yeah. Nick Boyd, it just came back to me. Nick Boyd was that other point guard I was trying to think of, the San Diego State transfer. It sounds like that he's probably going to wind up at Wisconsin instead of Carolina, even after his visit earlier this week. Yeah, and you said it earlier in the show, but with Jonathan Powell in the mix now, and if you land Veesaar, that's got to be intriguing for them, the staff, to be able to pitch to a point guard. Look at everything around you on this team. You got Caleb Wilson. Maybe Ian Jackson's back. Maybe Drake Powell's back. We don't know yet, but we'll see. You got a bunch of shooting, right? Like, this already is projecting to be a better shooting team. We'll see what happens, but I just there's a great opportunity for a guard to come in and have a field day.
No, and that's what you want to do, and that's what if LeBron's taught us anything, it's, hey, let's get these these superstar teams together, and that's how he did it. He recruited just like the recruiting is going now. Hey, let's get the gang together. Let's put the best talent together, so maybe they can to land a big makes us much more attractive to that point guard, whoever that may be.
Okay. All right, Coach. Really hope you have a great time in San Antonio. Make sure you remember the Alamo. Make sure you go down to the Riverwalk. Have all sorts of fun with there. How big a Houston Cougars fan will you be this weekend?
I don't have a stitch of anything red. I have nothing red. I may buy some on the way because I will be a huge Houston fan, and I'm not really a big fan of the other three teams. Obviously, don't want Duke to win it, so go Cougs. Hope they do it. Kelvin Sampson, I'll be a big fan come from Saturday night.
That's right. And you know what? If Duke wins, then we can laugh at the SEC because the ACC still ended up winning the national championship. And even though, anybody but Duke, that would be pretty funny, and we'd take it for the ACC. All right, Coach, fun conversation as always. Really interested to hear where Carolina winds up with both of these guys. Again, we think Jacoby Gillespie winds up in Knoxville, and from what some of the insiders are saying, it sounds like Carolina is the front runner for Henri Veesaar, but we'll obviously keep our eyes on it and other portal candidates as well. So tomorrow on the show, we will get you ready for the weekend. Obviously, there's not any specific Carolina basketball stuff going on, but lots of other Carolina athletics. We have some other portal targets we got to keep talking about, and so make sure you stay tuned with us for that. If you haven't subscribed to the show on YouTube, make sure you do that. We talked about the Insider program earlier. If you want to go even deeper with the show and get even more connected with me and this great community, Locked on Tar Heels Insider program, that link is in the show notes. Locked on Tar Heels Discord, we'd love to have you as part of that group as well. Literally hundreds of Tar Heels fans in there talking Carolina stuff all day long. I'll tell you right now, the recruiting channel is going off literally right now because everybody's talking all the time. All right, guys, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tomorrow, but until then, what's up, pup? Peace.